Hello, welcome to 15 Minutes of Consulting Best Practices. My name is Maria Isabel Rios, and I'm joined by David Fields. Hello, David.
It is good to see you, Maria Isabel. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Good to see you too. And hello to everybody who's joining us. Those of you who come frequently know, it takes us a minute to see your comments. It takes a minute for everybody else to see your comments, to see your questions. This is a space where we answer your questions about how to grow and how to create success for your consulting firm. So don't be shy. Post your questions in the comments so we can get to them today, and also participate in the conversation, add your thoughts, add your experiences, your point of view to make the conversation richer. And with that, let's get going. There was a question for today that was the question we didn't get to last week at the wrap up of our conversation. This question is from Katrin, and it's for you, David. And hello, Brad. We'll get to your question in a second. So we owe it to Katrin to start with her question first. She says, how do I help my team move out of their comfort zone? I have an analyst with great potential, but he is very comfortable to work on the library and not on the story for the prospect. He goes into details and data immediately, not staying enough on understanding issues, needs, value for the prospect. So David, how can we help the analyst?
An interesting question, Katrin, and hopefully, Katrin, you're back here, so you'll get to hear this live. Let me think on this one for a moment. My first question to you is whether your analyst wants to move out of their comfort zone. So you have these ambitions for your analyst. What I wonder is, are those in sync with the analyst's own ambitions? Because if someone knows that they will have to go through some discomfort in order to achieve their ambition, then your task is actually fairly easy. You know, if the analyst wants to grow into consulting or move up in the organization, you say, look, get that. One of the skills you're going to have to learn is communicating the story. Then they have some motivation. So because they're self-motivated. Whereas if you're trying to drag them sort of kicking and screaming into something that they don't really want to do, maybe they're not that interested. And that's much harder. So that's part of it. The other thing that occurs to me, and then Maria Isabel, I'll be interested in you chiming in, is whether they have the capability to be stretched into this, right? So you see them staying in a certain area. That may be where their capabilities are. And there are all sorts of assessments to find out what people's capabilities are. My sense is most people can learn most things with some very important exceptions in consulting. I think critical thinking is really hard to teach to someone who doesn't have that thinking style naturally or hasn't developed it. It's really hard to develop in someone. So if that's missing, I think that would be challenging. But I get those are my initial two thoughts. Maria Isabel?
Having grown up and then becoming an engineer, right? We often have these concepts of ourselves. I'm good with numbers, or I'm not good with telling a story, or I'm not good at writing, or I'm good at this or good at that, right? And we put ourselves into boxes. And I'm wondering how much of that is at play too, of whether the person immediately feels, or the analyst says, you know what, this is where I excel at. So I'm going to immediately go do that. One, it gives me more joy. Two, this is where I can add the most value to the firm immediately, right away. And that plays also into their natural inclination of wanting to add value right away. And whether there's a path of saying, look, I'm going to first show you how I do it. Or let me walk with you in how story writing or storytelling is done, and have them observe a few times or participate a few times where the bar is really low, so they can get more comfortable with the process of storytelling and the expectations of storytelling. And they have a better model and a better framework, right? Which is a lot of how consulting is learned, or at least how consulting was learned in my case, and on the cases of those around it, which is you observe, right? You get exposed to it quite a bit, and then you start doing and taking ownership of processes. Wondering if there's an opportunity to do some of that as well.
Yeah, I think it's fair that their own self-definition, it could be part of it. Excellent. There's a lot more we could play with on there. So Katrin, let us know if that was helpful. If you're listening and you're not Katrin and you have a related question, put it in the comments so that we can answer it. The whole people development piece of our business is quite fascinating. Let's see what Brad asked. And whatever you asked, you're going to have to answer, Maria Isabel, because I answered it. Okay, so Brad says, hey, David and Maria Isabel, you often mention the value of subcontracting for other firms in times of slow demand. You subcontract we do. All the time. Let's take a hypothetical example in which you've subcontracted for a firm a few times and it's gone well. What are the best practices when your subcontractor is pleased with your work? Do you mean the prime is pleased? I'm assuming it means the prime is pleased with the work while their client is less pleased.
Okay, so client is not pleased.
So so are you talking in the, Brad, are you the prime in this case, or are you the subcontractor? So if the subcontractor thinks that they've done a good job, but the client doesn't think they've done a good job, which is what you typed here. Maybe that is what you meant. Right. Just let us know. What do you think, Maria Isabel?
That's my interpretation of the question.
Okay.
The person who's executing the work thinks the work is great. The client is like, meh, not so great, right?
Yeah.
It's great time for a retrospective. Time to say, let's sit down, let's talk through it. What has worked, what hasn't worked, and let's get some facts around the table. Client feedback is one of them. One of the other things you probably heard us talk about is that we encourage you to get client feedback in a systematic way for every engagement, right? We conduct QA sessions with our clients, and folks on our team who are not principals, who are not in delivery, help collect that feedback. Prime is somewhat pleased, client is less pleased. All right. Again, what this conversation we're having applies. The voice of the client is extremely important in this conversation. You want to understand not only whether the client is pleased or not, but why, what's behind it? What's driving the client's level of satisfaction? And then you can also understand, okay, is it worth tweaking or not? Is there a there? Does that change your own opinion on the work, whether you're pleased with it or not? Should you be making modifications? Is there a tweak in the way you're actually executing the work necessary? Or is it a communication issue? There could be so many causes that drive the difference in the perception of the quality and the value and the satisfaction of the work between the prime, the subcontractor, and the client. You want to diagnose where that gap is and understand what's working well and what's not working well from each perspective. That's my take on it. David, what's your take?
Well, I think you're right. So obviously feedback and client feedback is paramount. My sense here, though, in addition to that, is that you're the subcontractor. You've got a prime who's somewhat pleased. The prime is your client. If you're subcontracting, the prime is your client. And if your client is happy, then you're doing good work. You're meeting their expectations. If their client isn't happy, that might trickle down to you. You might get feedback and have some insight into how they can do better with their client. But you're doing a good job. Your client, which is the prime, is happy with your work, and leveraging that into additional work is a good idea. I think having some subcontracting as one of your revenue streams, as a channel, is a great idea. If you can diversify your revenue streams, that makes you a more stable, reliable firm. And in today's environment, especially, that's valuable.
And conversely, right? If you are the prime and you have a subcontractor that you're really happy with, even if a certain client is not completely delighted, if you understand what the difference is between your level of satisfaction and your clients, that could also work. That's a subcontractor you can reach out to more often. And Tony adds a supplementary question, so we're going to go for it, I think.
Okay.
It says, any tips for doing that when you're subcontracted and the prime is not a consultant and does not have storytelling, proposal, and persuasion techniques that will be helpful, or just take a try and leave it?
Yeah. Your client is the prime.
Right.
And this is the downside of subcontracting, and what you have to be careful of. There's a lot of primes don't have the skills, for instance, we teach our clients, right? So they don't know how to contract well. They may or may not be very good at consulting. You know, that again, that's on them. They won the deal and the client trusts them. So whether you think they're doing it the best way or not, if their client's happy, then fine. And you can try to pass on some insights, but ultimately you serve your client. That's my perspective on it. I don't know. Do you differ, Marie-Isabel?
I'm completely aligned with you.
Yeah, okay.
And the level in which you have skills and you have knowledge and you have communication skills or storyline, storytelling skills that you can share with the prime or put at the service of the prime, right? And say, look, I'm happy to come in and do this presentation. Are you open to that? No, I don't want you in the room. Okay, fine. You accept that. You put your skills to the service of your client, which is the prime. And then you follow their lead.
Are there other questions from the group, or Jaron, do we do other questions that were submitted? Let's see what Alex says. I had my discovery conversation with a prospect, and it seemed like the prospect was ready to sign and move on. Good. So I submitted a proposal. Okay. We met this week, and then my contact said they needed to take the proposal to leadership for approval. Oops. And they would get back to me. Is there something I should have done? Yes. What do I do now? All right, Marie-Isabel, tell Alex.
All right. All right, Alex. So yes, like David said, instinctively and right away, right? So 2 elements. First element, right now, ask your proposal if you can go to them, if you can go with them to the leadership team. It's likely a no. It's worth asking though, right? So the question is one that's worth asking. Expect a no, so don't be disappointed when you get it, but ask it anyway, right? You can answer their questions. You can get an understanding of the leadership team. You can get an understanding of their goals and what the value is for the project. That's your argument for asking to be in the room. You are also creating that pathway in your contact's mind, because the next time you get a proposal, you're going to make that ask earlier on in the process. So you're planting a seed. So you're doing 2 things, right? Asking for today, but also asking for tomorrow. So don't skip the question right now, right? For the future, which is the second thing you're going to do, in parameters, where you're going through your context discussion, through your discovery questions, in parameters, always ask, what is the process of getting a project approved? And when people say, oh, it needs to go to XYZ committee, ask what that means for their organization. Sometimes we hear, oh, it needs to be approved by a committee, and we think, oh, okay, fine, approved by a committee. It means different things in different organizations, right? If it means the committee actually has decision-making authority, you would want to sit in front of the committee. You would want to talk to them as part of your context discussion stage. You would want to complement what you're learning from the people you're having your context discussion with. You will want to get approval from them. You will want to involve them in proposal review. Otherwise, your chances of getting the proposal approved will be much higher. David, why are you smiling so broadly? Go for it.
We see this all the time. So
we do.
And we should have, to be fair to Alex, I think, congratulations to you for getting the opportunity and for getting it to the point where they wanted a proposal. So good on you for doing that. And Marie-Isabel is absolutely right. Yes, you have a process issue. You are not, it sounds like, asking what their decision-making process is.
It's difficult to
do who the decision maker is. This is really important for all of you who are listening. You don't ask who makes the decision. You ask, how is the decision made? What's the process? Who they will lie about? Well, I make the decision. The process they generally won't lie about.
Right. And it's a less aggressive question.
Yeah.
All right. We're at time.
Look at that. All right. So come back next week, because this week we've used up our 15 minutes, amazingly enough. Thank you for spending these 15 minutes with us. A few things before we go. Make sure Monday Live's on your calendar. Thanks, Jaron, wherever it is, over there. Okay. Put davidafields.com Monday Live in your calendar so you're always here. Another thing I wanted to mention is the wait list is open for the Solo Practice Accelerator. If you happen to be a solo consultant, come to this, because these just rock. These are awesome. And they're very hard to get into. So get on the wait list. And what else? Connect with us on LinkedIn. Thank you. There's our LinkedIn. If you're not connected with Marie Isabel, connect with her. If you're not connected with me, by all means, connect with me. And that's it. Thanks for being here, for joining us. Have an amazing week. And remember, consulting's not about you. It's about them. It's about your clients. It's about your prospects. So give them kindness and give them value. And we will see you next week. Take care.